Okay, guys, and we're here. So if you are a teacher or a tutor, or even if you're just a friend of ours or even a student, thank you guys so much for tuning in. So I'm Jessica. I have my own tutoring business. And as a former classroom teacher, I'm always super interested to talk to other teachers out there, people who are still teaching and doing their own tutoring business on the side. So I have an awesome person on the live stream today, and her name is Molly, and she's pretty much amazing with what she's done with her own tutoring business, plus still teaching in the classroom full time. Molly, I'm going to let you introduce yourself because even though it's kind of hard to talk about ourselves, I think everyone wants to know who in the world you are and what you do.
Thank you so much for having me. Jessica and I found each other on Instagram and YouTube, so it's kind of cool that we became tutor friends. We both have teaching in common, which is awesome. But so like Jessica said, I teach first grade online this year. So I'm trying to balance a tutoring business with teaching full time. And I also teach 2 college classes too. So I got into tutoring for a variety of reasons, and it just has spiraled into helping other teachers start their own tutoring side hustle so that they don't have to quit their day job and do something that incorporates skills that they already have in the classroom.
Guys, Molly's doing something that I don't think I could have done what she does. Even though we both are tutoring, she's able to teach full time and began her tutoring business on the side. So when I first started teaching, I could only handle being in that classroom, and I discovered how really tough it was for me and my personality, and just how much it really requires. You have to be on all the time, and you have to deal with all these moving parts. Back then, I never really thought that I could add to that. I never thought I could have people come in after school and charge them for tutoring. And in fact, I almost probably thought as a teacher, I'm not allowed to charge like that. It seems like maybe morally corrupt to even do that, but that's not the case at all. Molly, what made you decide that you could handle more than just the classroom?
I had a few parents start asking me for help with reading. And so I started thinking about it, and I love teaching reading, and it just seemed like a natural fit for me to get to do one-on-one or small groups. But I agree with what you said earlier that I kind of felt like, ooh, could I double dip and is that wrong? And the answer is it's not wrong. As long as I'm not getting paid to do it on school hours, then there's nothing wrong with it.
So when you tutor your students, are they coming to your classroom? Like, are these students that you still live in the area and they come into your classroom after school hours?
Yeah. So when I first started tutoring, I didn't know like online if I would get people from different parts of the country, but really it's just been local for me. I live in the middle of Missouri in a college town, and it's been all people that were either former students or people that were referred to me by former students. Word of mouth has been how I've gotten most of my clients.
Okay, so the power of word of mouth has really been beneficial for me too, but there are other people out there who are master advertisers. They've advertised their tutoring businesses through those buy-sell trade sites on Facebook, and they've gotten results from that. And something else that's worked for me, and maybe for you, is knowing other tutors or teachers as well who they simply can't accommodate everybody, so they'll refer one another. And that's why we're here today, because just knowing people is really going to be beneficial for your business. Because if I don't know how to do something and Molly does, she can tell me and I can learn. And it's much better than me spending months and months trying to learn a way to make my tutoring business better, such as, online quizzes or IXL, something like that. Molly would know the answer. Tell me, at first, were you, like, when you guys were still in the classroom, were they coming to you, or did you say, no, after my classes, I'm going to have you just meet me online because that's where everything's headed anyway?
Okay, so I have only taught kindergarten and first grade in my teaching career. So it's kind of different from middle school and high school kids who often will come in for extra help from the teacher. So it's pretty rare, I think, that a kindergartner would come in the morning and say like, hey, can we go over these math problems or whatever? So that's a little bit unique to elementary, I think. The majority of my kids that I tutor were former students, and the parent needs something with either remediation, or right now I do have a couple kids that need enrichment because of school being out. So That's how I've gotten my clients, but I imagine that if you're middle school or high school, you probably could speak more about that, about spending a lot of your free time tutoring kids after school or just helping them after school and then transitioning that into tutoring.
So when I was still teaching, my last year in the classroom, I was teaching middle school, and we have a lot of kids who need after school work. They just need it. And a lot of the parents back then, I thought, well, I don't think they're willing to have their kid come after school, because at least back in the day before the virus, sports would take precedence over academics a lot of the time. So you would have a kid who could get by doing okay in the class, but they really weren't learning as much as they could. And I would ask parents, hey, they need to stay after school. And they'd only do this begrudgingly. And so that's when I felt discouraged a long time ago. I thought, well, there's no way I can't even get people to tutor for free, much less ever start a business. Well, near the end of the year, one day I was speaking to some other teachers and a substitute was there. She just asked me what I'd be doing in the summer. And I said, well, I'm actually considering starting a tutoring business. And I didn't expect any sort of response from her, but she said, oh, really? Well, my son is in 6th grade and he might need a little bit of help with reading. And I was like, oh, yes. So we made arrangements to meet at the local Starbucks, and really that was my first client, and actually gave him a book. He never gave it back, but that's okay. That was a great start, and I didn't have any business plan in place, nothing like that. So that was when I first had a spark of hope, but anybody before that, middle and high school kids, they would come in to the classroom sometimes in the morning or after school, and it was just like helping with the homework. And so, because that's what I used to think tutoring was kids who were barely passing and they were trying to get help. And it's not always that. Sometimes I'll have students who are extremely bright and they just want supplemental work. But with that said, starting the business, I didn't really know what I was doing. I had to go and look online. How did you find information as to start a business? Because as educators, we're not really taught business, we're curriculum and instruction, and that's all so it's like we're not supposed to have any other skills. So how did you do it?
Right. Kind of the same way you were saying, that I just, spent a lot of time on YouTube, and I eventually realized that you could find little breadcrumbs, but then to put the whole cookie together, you have to buy either a coaching package or somebody's course. So as my tutoring business got a little bit more successful, I kind of adopted the whole you have to spend money to make money philosophy, even to a little bit of my husband's chagrin on that. It has paid off. So what I started doing was finding people that I thought could teach me stuff. So I've taken a few courses, and that's how I turned my side hustle really of tutoring into a full-blown tutoring business. And I feel like what that can do for people is you really start taking it super seriously, and then your clients just start rolling in after that. I started with 1 over the summer. Now I'm up to 9, and I'm teaching full time. So it took a lot of search and find, and then eventually landing on a few different people that really helped me with my business and to where it is today.
What are some things you had to learn? Because I didn't know how to build a website. I barely knew how to create a Facebook group or a Facebook page. What about you? Did you know more than I did?
No. The funny thing is, when I was in high school, I took my dad's marketing class, and I did an e-commerce. So this was 2000, early 2000s, and I was in an e-commerce event. And I wish in college I would have stuck with that, because once I started my tutoring business, I thought, wow, I could have been doing this from the get-go if I would have just stuck with this stuff. Anyways, I didn't know anything, and I took a huge leap of faith 2 summers ago and had a company make my website, and it was so expensive. I think you can do it so much easier on your own. The more I know now, you could do it on your own. But I spent a lot of money with the branding and all of that. So that was something I didn't know. Facebook stuff, I didn't even have a Facebook. I had an Instagram, a little personal one with 60 friends on there. Now I still feel like I don't even know what I'm doing on Facebook. And it just kind of slowly evolved to where now I have a YouTube channel, and I use Kajabi and all these things that you hear all these business podcast people talking about. Now they're starting to make sense the longer I do it.
Point up above your head. So above our heads, everybody, that is those are our Instagrams, our business Instagrams. And of course, mine Yes. So JPEZ tutoring, I try to tell everyone about it just because not only do I want to help other students, but I love helping other tutors as well. And really, that's what I've been doing lately. So your YouTube channel is called Literacy Fundamentals, correct?
Yes, the same as my Instagram handle, yes.
Okay. Molly's easy to find, so everyone please go find and follow Molly because she's amazing and really provides some awesome insight that I haven't even thought about yet. So online teaching, it's the hot new topic, at least in my world. What are the benefits of teaching online? And I don't want to say we're talking about private tutoring. So we know the classroom, that's kind of a separate entity. So what are the benefits of tutoring any student through the computer?
Okay, there's a few. So one, I would say that probably stands out the most to me. It's a little selfish, but you don't have to go anywhere. So I love just being able to like pop on Zoom and work with a kid. I actually have only one kid right now that's online. I had a few more over the summer, but I love just doing that with her because it's like a quick 30 minutes. And I don't have to drive anywhere. I don't have to grab anything. Everything's on my computer. And I use a document camera for a ton of things. And then I've sent her supplies too. So if we have to do anything with handwriting, but that's one of the benefits. Another benefit is, I think, just kind of the ease of it. Like once you get comfortable with teaching online, which I think everybody's starting to get that way. Like if you're still in the classroom, you're probably taught online this year. You just need to think of it, transition it to a tutoring client because it's the same thing. That's what I tell people on Instagram all the time is like what you're doing in the classroom, make that your niche and tutoring, and then you can marry the two so that you're not spending all this time creating stuff for your tutoring clients versus your students. You can put them together and seriously not waste any time prepping. So I'm trying to think of other things that are great about online tutoring.
Well, I've had several parents who at first were skeptical about online because I had some people that I met at the library, I met at the coffee shop, I met them in their home, but it wasn't always convenient for me because I was losing my mind driving everywhere and they never live in the same place. It's always this way and that way and up that way. So if a parent is skeptical, what they need to know is so much of what we do in person requires a computer anyway. In fact, if a student doesn't have access to a laptop, we're kind of handicapped as to what we can do because I do feel that students still need to be writing something down by hand, but there's so much more online now that you're sitting there. If I create a quiz based off the book they're reading, or we even do games, all of it is based on the computer. So it's it almost feels a little silly to say, okay, well, I'll come in person, but then we're both looking at a computer screen. So it's almost like the same thing. And I've had people argue and say the computer is better because students are more engaged because sometimes it's more interactive. They have something to click at. They have to open a tab. Whereas sometimes if they're just sitting with you, they might want to look around and find a distraction.
Yes. And that made me think too, another thing is if you have a reluctant learner, they might feel more comfortable doing it this way. I taught kindergarten last year and then I switched to first grade this year. So many of my kids I looped with unintentionally, just this whole virus thing, it just happened to land in my favor. My point is a lot of those shy kids from last year are completely different people online. They share all the time. They are interactive and it's because they're online and they're comfortable at their house. So I think it could really benefit somebody that's shy too.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I never thought about it like that because, my husband teaches and now he's seeing kids that are normally it's loud in the classroom or it can be just pretty often. And then on the computer, they want to hide. But that's probably the difference between the younger kids versus the older kids. And the fun thing with the younger kids, they love all the little backgrounds like Zoom background, Zoom filter. And sometimes I forget that they like that because I had a student use Google Meet the other day. And I had sort of forgotten about all the online choices because I'm thinking, okay, what do I have to teach? What do I need to make sure I cover? I have to, email the parent. And we got on and she was like, wow. I said, what? And she was clicking through all the cool backgrounds and it kind of made it more fun because this particular student had never met me in person. So seeing me on the computer, she would always start out the hour being a little shy and then I would try to warm her up. But the little online features sort of helps break the ice, I think. So it's kind of an advantage. So here we go. Dr. Khan saying, Molly, I've been following you for a few weeks now. So it looks like you've been helping some people out, which is wonderful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And if you ever have suggestions, please send them to me because I want to be serving people and not have that selling feeling. Like I'd rather just, like Jessica was talking about, like helping other tutors. that's what we're here for.
When it becomes really easy to help, like for instance, if you see, I know, okay, one of my favorite things to do for both students and people our age and older would be when I see that their Google stuff is disorganized. So much of what I do requires the Google Drive because I really actually don't use Microsoft Word anymore, which is crazy because I used to love it. I made a video a while back on my YouTube channel about organizing your Google Drive, and I'm not even in the video, which is probably why people like it. It's not me like putting on a show. It's just a screen recording of how to organize your documents, because one of the ways to help students now is it's not just teaching the content, it's showing them how to navigate this internet world. Because, you know, when we were younger, the internet was for fun and socializing or typing papers for our English classes. It really wasn't about business or anything really like learning based. It wasn't that when we were a lot younger. Putting your things on Google Drive, like one of my homeschool students they're all disorganized because they haven't learned those things yet. I try to think, what is it I've noticed about students and adults that I think, gosh, that kind of bothers me for them? I think they're struggling to keep their head on straight. So that's just one of the things I like to do. And the younger they are, the better, because they start learning those things. I forget how quickly the younger ones can learn too.
Yes, I think that's excellent that you brought up the point about kind of executive functioning skills, because I think we think that we have to tutor in just the core subjects, but that could be something that parents want help with. I actually, years ago, tutored, I'm going to put that in air quotes, worked with a family for 3 years. And a lot of the time I was just doubling as executive functioning skills one-on-one because the mom didn't discipline them or make them do anything they needed to do for school. So that's where I came in. And so I think that's something that definitely there's a need for right now. And a lot of parents are willing to throw money at a problem. You just have to find the right problem and the right person. So that's interesting that you mentioned that, because I think that's something you could homeschool kids. There's got to be lots of kids out there really struggling with that because all they do is look at a screen anymore.
The screen. That's probably another reason why some parents thought, well, I don't know if they should, but I've had some parents change their mind about that. Like, yeah, the screen time's bad, screen time's hard for you, it's hard on your eyes. And then it's sort of like, actually, you know what's harder? Driving, planning, sitting in traffic, worrying about catching a virus. Okay, just staying at home in this case is easier. With talking about all that also makes me think of one of the other topics you've hit on a lot lately is teacher burnout. Burnout used to be a term for like the kids who smoked in school, like in the 80s or something. Now, oh, it makes me really tired. So I know that I can get burned out really easily. It would happen for me in the classroom. It happened like end of August, and it was the rest of the year. But
right.
How do you handle it? Because it seems like for you, you've handled doing a classroom plus adding on this whole other thing, which, by the way, I do want to talk about if you're planning to always stay in the classroom or one day grow this business and transition to only doing the business. But so kind of keep that on the back burner for a moment. I tend to ask like 6 questions at once. So how have you handled teacher burnout this semester?
So it ebbs and flows, definitely. And this semester has been unique because I'm teaching from home. And the last few years I was teaching at a Title I school with behaviors that I'm sure anybody that's taught in that environment will understand, just out of this world things that my burnout was so bad before I started teaching online. Just, coming home crying on the way to school. And I never felt that way before. The first 4 years I taught, I had a horrible administrator. But the kids were amazing and the school was amazing. So I had to leave that school because of a bad admin. So the burnout was different in that situation. It was an adult thing versus kids. And then I transitioned to amazing admins at my title school to horrible behaviors that just made me question why I even got into teaching. And like I said, made me cry a lot to and from school. That's kind of how the business thing started, because I, was so burnt out. I'm like, anything, I'll try anything. But anyway, so back to your original question. This year, it's like I've got a breath of fresh air with teaching from home because I don't have behavior problems online. If I do, I mute them or put them in the waiting room. And it's just so different. I'm still teaching Title I kids, but they're different online. It's just crazy. So I think the autonomy that I have with teaching online has helped my teacher burnout. I don't know if I could be tutoring this many kids. Actually, I know for a fact, if I was in the physical classroom right now where I was last year, no way could I tutor this many kids. but tutoring online kind of gives me that extra energy where I didn't have that last year. It was like I came home and wanted to just crawl on the couch and sleep when I got home.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I remember the fatigue. And when I was first teaching, I would wear like flats. You know, I still cared about looking cute, but not too cute, you know, just like professional, but not like those, you know, age 75 and above year old shoes. And then you kind of get over that. But I remember like my physical body, I would be so tired and stressed. I had trouble getting out of the car to like walk up to my apartment back in the day. Like, yeah, I remember.
Oh, yeah.
One thing another topic I really like when it comes to education is just seeing how just the different dynamics of how people view teaching. For whoever's watching, I did just make a video talking about money, because a lot of teachers are, you know, if it's not an extremely high salary, a lot of people aren't, especially the first few years of their teaching career. And so people tend to, first of all, people don't always like teachers. They don't respect teachers. And then people make fun of teachers for their low paying salary. And then not only that, but they're probably working harder than a lot of other people getting paid a lot. So like the other day, even daycare workers kind of get, you know, crapped on a little bit. A woman commented about how, well, I can't believe daycare workers assume I'm going to give them a gift. You know, just me paying for daycare should be payment enough. And I just think, well, first of all, we don't want those parents. We're not going to tutor those students, because this whole negative outlook on education, it's got to stop, because it's really killing us as a country, just seeing just like everything dropping, you know, more and more. But, you know, of course, I'm a huge advocate for education. That's just the world I'm in. But have you ever had to deal with a negative parent?
Yes, I would say for the most part about, I don't know what number, but I would say 99% of the parents I've experienced have been amazing. Even if they didn't know what they were doing in the parenting department, they trusted me at school. I've had one in particular that did not like me, and that was really hard for me because everybody wants to be liked, right? So I had to really let that go. I would not go into the story, but it would blow your mind how crazy it was, why she decided she didn't like me. But I think that you're talking about with education and parents not being appreciative, that's where tutoring, like to go back to the burnout thing, really has helped with my burnout, because when you don't feel appreciated in the classroom, but then you're tutoring kids whose parents are just like, wow, you have my kid reading on grade level in a couple sessions, because of the one-on-one time is so concentrated versus one teacher trying to work with 25 kids. So that is something I would tell any teacher who's feeling burned out, like not feeling appreciated in the classroom. Try tutoring a couple kids, or just one. Start with one. And appreciative parents, hands down, will make you feel so good. I just got a Christmas present this week from one of my tutoring families. They're just so appreciative and thoughtful. Like, they got me something that they knew I liked. And like you were just saying, the preschool parent was like, I'm not going to get these teachers a gift. It's not about the gift, but it's about the being appreciated for all the work you're doing. And I think if I wouldn't have started tutoring, I don't even know what I'd be doing right now. I might have just been like, screw it, I'm going back to a desk job.
Wow, you've got the ability and the skills to teach. And really, one-on-one is so incredibly rewarding. I always thought that when I was in the classroom was, well, if they just needed, if we had more time, you know, there's never enough time. If we have enough time, we can work with these students. And I like getting to know the students better too, because when they're one-on-one, you can talk about more, you know, a little bit more about them. Whereas, you know, you just couldn't do it as much in the classroom unless they were big talkers. You just couldn't. And so that's valuable. The difference is with one-on-one, like all my students require a different activity. How have you handled planning for your tutoring sessions?
I'm sort of lucky right now that I have a few kids that are the same age or the same level. So I usually focus on reading and writing. I do have a couple kids that will practice math, or one kid right now we're doing enrichment with. So we've been building things like STEM stuff. We built a robot this week. So I'm lucky in that way that a few of the kids that I'm working with are the same level that most of my first graders are working at. So it's really easy for me to pull resources for them, because I just kind of have a feel for it. And then I recycle things with the other ones. So I think if you can try to line up tutoring clients like that, it's ideal. But we all know that, like you're saying, that doesn't happen as often as it would be convenient. As far as, is your question more like, how do you plan for all the different things then, or?
Yeah, how are you planning? Because for me, I have quite a range. You know, I do ELA really, but I do have, you know, one student who is an ESL adult, and then I have some second graders, and everyone else is in the actual category I'm used to, which is like the middle and high school. So some of them come to me, they need some homework help, and then others just need like remediation and like skills. And then I have my homeschool kids. I do juggle a lot, but that's because I'm doing all of it full time now. So for me, I noticed that if I don't put in enough planning time, the quality of my lessons will suffer. And that definitely happened in the classroom. But now, although I have better behavior and more freedom, sometimes it's tough because not everyone's learning the same thing. So I try to create things sometimes, and I know it's time consuming. So I'm just wondering, what's a good way to help save time and make it more efficient?
Yeah, I actually had a tutor ask me that because she was saying that she spends like 6 hours a week prepping, and it's just exhausting, and I can only imagine. So I think having a set time every week where you're planning that week ahead, just like perhaps you would as a classroom teacher, planning all your lessons ahead of time and just kind of batch working it. So if you're doing reading, like maybe pick a couple books and then you've got a couple lessons ahead of time. And then just having excellent places where you can find stuff. Like I use Reading A to Z for reading group type lessons. They have the guided reading lesson on there. So if you're not comfortable yet with teaching a reading lesson, it has anything from remediation all the way up to enrichment. It tells you, it's almost scripted what to say. Now, you don't want to sound like a robot, but if you're really struggling on finding things, they're out there. You just have to kind of find them and then put the time into prepping. And then I think the better you get at it, the quicker it becomes. I don't think it takes as much time for me now because I kind of have it streamlined. It's a process instead of just, oh, I've got to be somewhere in 10 minutes and I'm trying to print something, that never works.
Oh yeah, I've definitely done that before. I've struggled like, 10 minutes and I don't have all my copies made, or, and of course that's another advantage of online. Now you don't really print anything out, or I would email parents and say, hey, if you have a printer, print this out because we're going to be working on this. But so many things are just digital. You don't even have to do that. It's very easy to think about what we struggle with, but what do you see most of your students struggling with as far as actually, it could be academics or personal stuff?
My tutoring students, like what are they struggling with? I think most of them right now are struggling with online learning, not meaning tutoring, just being in an online classroom all day. And the parents, that's why they've come to me, is because they want a physical person to work with them to make sure they're not getting behind, because we've now had, last spring plus now of online back and forth. A lot of these kids are doing in-seat, but now they're online. So they've been like flip-flopped in our state back and forth. Okay, now you're online, now you're in seat. So that's what they're really struggling with, is just like navigating online and then being able to sit and focus. Parents want me to work with them on reading and writing stuff, but they physically want someone there. And I will say that I do wear a mask and they wear a mask. So that's how I'm handling the in-person tutoring, if anybody's worried about that.
Nah, they won't be worried, or they might be, I don't know. I felt so bad, but I did have somebody who knew me online referred someone they knew, and they had a student, and they said, we'd love for you to come and be in person, but because the parents are working from the home and can't constantly come over and help them on the computer. But what it ends up being is you feel kind of like, hey, I want to help, but we're not here to babysit, unless some people might want to do that. But unfortunately, I can't drive 45 minutes away to sit with your student and help them. I could definitely help them and be better, but instead, why don't you think about working online with that student, and they could screen share. And once you screen share, so much more can be done. Like I do it. We're screen sharing constantly because I'll say, let me see what it looks like. And I remember the days where I had to call for help with something, and they're like, go to the website, but I don't know. I'm like, where do I click? And that's a nightmare. But once parents see how easy it can be, that's how we can help others. And I think that's what's hard. It's hard for me I don't like to say no when a student needs help, but sometimes you have to set those boundaries, because you think like, I can't tutor all of these people and do an awesome job. You said you've got to the point where you've turned people away, sadly, but professionally, like, hey, well, wait until next month or so when maybe I have a freed up space.
Yeah, that's been a struggle for me because, you're trying to balance if you're working full time, even if you're not, if you're doing tutoring full time, like you can only tutor there's only so many hours in the day. And then if you have a home life too, like I have a husband and we got a puppy. So it was just a lot of a lot of things to balance this year. And so, yeah, I've had to turn people away, but, just keeping them on a wait list and saying, expressing why and being heartfelt with it, they're going to understand. Most people put their family first and they understand. The old me, the 20-something-year-old Molly would have, oh yeah, I'll just keep piling the people on. But to, the demise of my family and my marriage, now I'm like, oh no, don't do that. Family's more important. You got to put your own self first before you can help people effectively.
So then if people are out there thinking about getting into tutoring, what is one thing you could tell them to really encourage them?
That they should. And if they're even thinking about it, then that's a sign that they need to do it. And don't be like me and wait too long. I feel like I could have started so much sooner. Even if you're not a teacher, if you have some kind of teaching ability, you can do it. I think it does complement a classroom teacher or somebody that's been in the classroom a little bit, because you've had those skills. There's some things that you still have to do. I'm sure, Jessica, you probably deal with some classroom management things with your homeschool kids, or, anybody if they're acting silly. I've got a couple girls that I tutor in a learning pod they're pretty silly sometimes. So I would say just do it. Just pull the whatever saying I'm looking for, and do it. Rip the
on your fear. Yeah. Take the plunge, I think. Okay. I'm thinking about what's next. What's next for us? Because there's so much, I'm trying to create content lately it's been about helping other people, just like what you're doing, helping people think about starting their own tutoring business, or just putting out awareness what it might be like, and then how to actually build a business. Because we're learning it's so much different than building businesses 10 or 15 years ago. So one of the things, and what do you think about this? I've mentioned it before. A lot of teachers can create lessons with video. They could be in a video. They don't have to be in a video. But I know that in order to be a really motivating teacher, I feel that creating videos for your students is just really efficient and helpful, because you might have those days where you're not feeling well, but that student deserves a lesson. So you can send them to your YouTube channel, or send them to an email that has a video and says, here, this is going to talk about, let's see, pronouncing words that end in ED, or this is going to talk about beginning, middle, and end of a story. With that said, I'm thinking about doing the iMovie course, and the first day of it would be free, helping teachers and all educators how to use iMovie on their computer, because sometimes you have basic understanding, but even that's a learning curve. Not everyone has time to sit there and watch all these tutorials of how to create videos, and at the same time you don't want to create a bad video that isn't helpful. So do you think there are people out there who need help just with the basic functionality of creating videos?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that for sure. I actually did a business audit yesterday for a tutor. We just met on Zoom, and it's related to video, but she just wants help with Zoom even. So I think there's even people that want help becoming the host and practicing breakout rooms. So if there's a need for that, then there's definitely a need for people that want to create videos, because everything is so virtual now. I know for a fact that I cannot edit my own video as well. So I'll be in that class.
Okay, good. So guys, for whoever is watching, and for whoever watches later on, I feel like it's last minute, but it's really, I've been thinking about it for days and thinking about how to implement it. I'm definitely going to be doing the iMovie class. I know Molly's going to be there, so you get to go and see Molly. It's going to be on December 17th, and then more information on that to be announced soon. But what is the future of your business, Molly? Your tutoring business attached to the classroom? What are you hoping to do next, in 2021?
Well, I'm hoping to help more teachers start their own tutoring business. I would like to keep tutoring, because I think, it's helped my burnout, and it's helped me kind of evolve into an even better teacher than I ever thought I could be, just with that one-on-one practice. But I'm looking to help more teachers in 2021, just tutoring business off the ground. Even if you're not a teacher, I want to help you start a tutoring business, because I think if you can be like me and go from crying in your car, hating every minute of what you're having to do, and then feel so fulfilled and happy about something like tutoring, then I want to help people like that. Because if only I had found somebody in the same situation when I was going through all that to push me in that direction.
Yeah, I think we all have to be pushed because so many people have that in common. They want to do something, but they're fearful. So they kind of keep quiet about it. Like, no, because it's really easy for someone to look at you and say, oh, I wouldn't do that. Maybe you shouldn't do that. That's too much of a risk. But that's just the wrong mindset, because you wouldn't tell your students, hey, we want to, I don't know. I think we're in the business of encouraging and building up and not tearing down.
I was going to say, so many teachers, you mentioned low pay, and so many teachers I've met, like I've even been in the backseat of an Uber before where the driver was a teacher working over the summer, and like hustling to make money for his wife and baby. And all these extra things you see teachers doing, like selling makeup or leggings and things that they're not really passionate about. And they're only getting a small percentage of the cut from the company. It's like a pyramid scheme. And spending all this time trying to do that when they could use skills they already have in the classroom and just use them for tutoring, and they could set their own rate and be their own boss. It's so freeing. It's just, I wish more people would consider it, because they would probably see the light go on. It's just so different than having to hustle for another company. You get to work for yourself.
Oh yeah. It's just because you're doing what you always do. You're in your home office, or you're sitting on your bed with your laptop, you're planning. Like that's the best thing to do. And it's safer too, just doing all these things from home. And I know we could keep going, but I won't keep it too long. I know we both have something at 3 o'clock and 2 o'clock your time.
Yes. I was going to say, if there's any tutor out there that wants to start their business and would like a little bit of help, I offer free business audits. So you can meet with me on Zoom and we'll just chat about your business for 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how much you want to say or how many questions you have. And I'd love to help anybody get some ideas going or look over things you have. And if you want somebody to look it over, I'd be happy to.
So for those who might not know, that a business audit that just means you talking about what they want, their business plan if they have one, their social media if they have it, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, just looking over anything related to their tutoring business, or say they don't even have one started yet, and they want help with the basic steps of where do I go from here. I do that frequently for tutors that just kind of need a little bit of guidance to get started, or am I doing this right? Like I told you, I talked to a woman yesterday that wants help with Zoom. So now I'm going to do some private coaching with her and help her with practicing Zoom so she can tutor people online. You can find me, on Instagram, or my website is literacyfundamentals.net, and send me an email and we can chat. And like I said, it's completely free. There's nothing obligated about it. It's just me trying to help more people start a tutoring business.
Yeah, starting with the free things are great. And then once you're a bit more serious, then you start paying for information, which, really it's always, you pay for quality information, it's worth it. But the free things are social media with go ahead and point at it. I'm glad I made that thing. I guess you can see it from there. The YouTube channel, videos, and Instagram, all that good stuff. All right. I could keep on going, and I'm bad with goodbyes, so we're just going to stop it now. But thanks everyone for watching, whether you're watching the replay or you're watching it now. You are wonderful and amazing. And please contact us. Definitely contact Molly, because she's my special guest today and with all kinds of great information. All right. Bye, everybody.